Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here today. I'm super excited to share my knowledge with your community for the first time in Antwerp. So as you can see, I'm going to talk today about generative AI, and a lot of us already heard about this topic many times, I'm sure about it. But in this presentation, I will not talk about just theoretical stuff, but I will share a lot of different practical examples from my own experience at work. So hopefully you can get a bit inspired to use AI tools if you don't do it yet, but if you do, maybe you'll discover something new for yourself. And of course, in the end, I'll also share my lessons learned and thoughts and a bit of reflections about having and using generative AI for UX projects. But before that, super bright slide as well. A short introduction. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, there's a QR code. You can scan it. Very easy. I'm a UX designer at a company that is called BIMcollab. I work as an in-house designer. What BIMcollab does is actually software for architects and construction engineering. So if you imagine any type of 3D modeling software, that's what I do. I create different features, improve user experience, and make sure that the ecosystem has a great feeling in sort of intuitiveness and also accessibility. So I am based in Eindhoven. Have you ever guys been to Eindhoven? Yay, okay, some of you. Yes, so it's a tech city in Eindhoven, in the Netherlands, sorry. A lot of different companies, very interesting as well. So besides my work, I also give workshops and I give different presentations like this one about UX in Figma. And also when I have time, I collaborate with LinkedIn Learning. I record courses with them, also about UX, very fun. And yes, I co-organize UX meetups in Eindhoven as well. So it's called UXify Eindhoven. And if you are ever in the area, feel free to attend. It's really fun, it's very cozy. And if you also would like to speak there, you're more than welcome because we always look for speakers, as any kind of community does everywhere in the Netherlands and here in Belgium as well. All right, so for today's agenda, I'm going to cover these three main tools: ChatGPT, Adobe Firefly, and Figma Jambot. So a question for you guys. Do you use AI tools at the moment for your UX projects? Okay, some of you does. And how is it? Fun? Amazing. Helpful? Amazing? All right. So yeah, you can imagine that I use these tools a lot. That's why I'm here speaking, giving this presentation. And the reason for that is, first of all, I love to try out new stuff. I like things that make it more productive. But also, I just have a huge challenge of being the only in-house designer at a company. And as you can imagine, it's a lot of things that you have to do as the only UX designer. Multitasking and also brainstorming a lot of different ideas and actually doing it very, very quick. So in a reality is that I work on 3 different products at the same time. So it can become quite intense, especially closer to the release period. So I have to switch contexts quite a lot, jumping from one project to another project. And because I work in the industry, which is architecture and construction engineering, and I do not have background in that, unfortunately, it can become also quite challenging to know how to solve problems for those users. So that's why generative AI tools really help me, first of all, to generate different ideas and to brainstorm, because of course I can do it with developers, with product owners, or other stakeholders in my company. But it's not the same feeling as when you brainstorm with your peer designer. Like, you don't feel that people actually get you, that we are on the same page. So also AI helps me to get different perspectives, also something new and out of box, maybe something I would never consider. And of course to give me some dose of inspiration, which is also great before diving into the certain feature or actually something that will solve problems for your user. So the first tool is ChatGPT. Do you guys use it for UX projects? Raise your hand. Yes, of course. Who doesn't? So yeah, before I start to ideate and to brainstorm about different possible solutions, I like to use ChatGPT to learn about the industry. And it's very nice because I can quickly understand difficult and complex terms In the same way, I, of course, can Google stuff, but I find ChatGPT much faster to work together with. So it's also nice to discover the state of the industry, what is happening there at the moment, how it is, who the users are, what their challenges are, and so on. So here's an example of a prompt that I could use to learn. So I just go to ChatGPT and I quickly ask a question. So what is IFC standard and why is it so important? I guess nobody here knows what IFC standard is. It's something very technical in the industry of architecture. So here you can see that ChatGPT is giving a lot of text that I can read, but when you start with your prompt for the first time, it can become quite complex. It's a lot of text, it's very technical, a lot of abbreviations and jargon that you might not necessarily get. So that's why I like to go back and actually play around with prompts. That means that I actually ask ChatGPT again to explain, but in simple words. And that's when it becomes very interesting, because if you can see the highlighted answer, it starts with, imagine you're building a big puzzle with your friends. And that's something already that you can relate to. It's something more with the storytelling, and you can learn things much, much faster. Another way I like to use ChatGPT is to get competitor insights. So before diving into my competitors, I just actually ask ChatGPT what users like and dislike about that platform, and what kind of opportunities for myself as UX designer I can find for my product. So very easy prompt. You just basically ask, what do users like the most about this software, which is one of our competitors? And you can see some kind of highlighted points, which is efficient collaboration, but also communication, clear accountability, and so on. It's a very basic checklist, but it can also give you some insights before actually creating a free account at your competitor's platform and actually researching it by yourself. In the same way, you can revert it and you can ask ChatGPT, what do users dislike about that software, or what do they miss in it? And then even if you change one keyword, you can get totally different answers, which is also quite nice because you can get more information that can be very useful for your project. So in this case, I found it very interesting that a lot of users, according to ChatGPT, they find it difficult to learn the software when they are new users. Also, it's very complex for small projects, there is no offline access, and so on. So then also you can discover design trends that can be actually relevant to your industry, which is also quite nice because you can get inspiration from Behance or Dribbble or just anywhere online, but ChatGPT can give it to you just much faster in the form of a list. But also keep in mind that information might be limited, and I feel that with a recent release, information is more up to date to this year, but earlier it was not the case. So as an example, you can see in this screenshot that I just asked, what are UX trends to include in BIM issue management platform? That's the industry. And when you read actually the answers, it says, first of all, simplified onboarding, intuitive navigation, minimalistic design, responsiveness. It's quite generic, right? Like, I mean, it can apply to any other type of industry, to any type of application or website. But still, it can be a very nice checklist for you to consider when you start designing your prototype or create new features for your users. Another way ChatGPT can get very useful is to create alternative prompts for other AI tools. And that's very interesting because you can actually combine different AI tools and create something unique. And in this way, you can also discover a lot of different keywords that you would never actually think about as well. So that's how I slowly want to transition to another tool that is called Adobe Firefly. Do you guys use it? Have you ever tried it out for your work? Yes, some of you, not so many. So with Adobe Firefly, it's actually free. It's in their beta version. You can generate different types of images, which is also very cool because you can do it either for your mood boards or for your user personas, but also for your final prototypes. So if you want to stand out and use some nice graphics or photography that is not just your basic stock images, you can generate it with Adobe Firefly. So here you can see at the bottom there is a prompt area. And what I try to do is to actually generate an image of an architect who looks at a computer with a 3D model of a building. And I think the photos that Adobe Firefly generated are quite all right. I also played around a bit with styles here on the right, with some effects to achieve what I wanted. But then what you can also do, you can grab the prompt that you just wrote, go back to ChatGPT, and ask it to give 5 alternative text prompts with the same purpose. And as an example, we will take the 5th one. It says the architect's attention is focused on a computer screen featuring a 3D building model. And the result that you get with that kind of prompt is a bit different. Would I say if it's better? Maybe not really, but it's also something else that you can also explore, because maybe if you only used your own keywords, you would never actually achieve that kind of images. Another great feature that I like about Adobe Firefly is reference images. And it's very cool because you can give directions to AI. Basically, you can tell them what you want to generate based on the image that you upload. And it's also a very new feature, also released a few weeks ago, that now you can upload your photos, your sketches, drawings, or any type of illustrations that you find online. So as an example, I took my picture with the building on the background, and I used it as a reference. And here in the prompt, I just asked Adobe Firefly to give me another illustration of modern skyscraper with glass windows reflecting sky. And as you can see, the result generated really looks similar to the building that I have on the background. And if I didn't have this reference image, I would get something completely different that is not really predictable. So this kind of feature is very nice to use for user storyboards. So when you want to create some scenario to visually show it, how the user journey will, basically go. So I find it also very useful. And finally, another tool that I want to share some examples with you is Jambot. It's a new widget in Figma. It's also AI powered. Have you ever guys heard about it before? No? All right. It's quite new. So what is Jambot? It's a widget inside of Figma. It only is supported in FigJam files where you can brainstorm and collaborate on different ideas with other designers or stakeholders. It is also based on ChatGPT algorithm, so the answers that you will get are most likely very similar from the ones that you will get in ChatGPT. But the difference right here is that it's very visual. So you can brainstorm everything in one Figma file that you can actually organize very neatly, and you can go back into it. Because when you use ChatGPT, there's a lot of text logs, a lot of history, and if you want to go back to, for example, 1 month ago when you generated something, it's very hard to find the answers. But with Figma and FigJam, it's much easier because it's very visual, and also you can share it with other people in your team or even maybe clients or stakeholders. So here's how it looks. It's based on sticky notes, very interesting as well. So when you look at the left, I start with the first sticky note, which is a prompt in this way. Here I ask Jambot to suggest ideas for a reminder feature for my software. And then I actually ask it to ideate different types of features. And in this column right here, you can see that it suggests with starting integration with calendar applications, or maybe include push notifications, options to set custom reminders, and so on. So it's also a nice way to generate different ideas very quickly. And in FigJam, you can also vote with other people, put comments, your thoughts, so you can actually really brainstorm together with other people. Then you can also proceed based on what you get as an answer, and you can ask Jambot to clarify the answer. So you have a quick question that you ask, hey, what do you actually mean about integrating with calendar applications, as an example? And then Jambot tells you, all right, so integration refers to the ability of software to connect with different features of Google Calendar or Microsoft Outlook. It's very obvious, but sometimes for some features that you maybe are not aware of, it's very nice to learn in the same file. Then you can also go even further and ask Gembot to teach you more about that stuff, which is also quite nice because you have some sort of online coach that you have inside of Figma. So you ask Gembot to teach you, and then you get answer like what it means, what is integration, and so on. And finally, another interesting feature that I actually love, it's called rabbit hole. So you literally can go down the rabbit hole, and that means whatever the prompt or information you feed into Gembot, it will suggest other relevant topics that you can explore further. So in this example, for example, benefits of having integration with Calendar, or some successful case studies or different examples, or steps you need to take to integrate this kind of feature, and so on. So I think that's also quite unique because I've never seen it like that. And with ChatGPT, for example, you can also have some text prompts, but then it will be much more messy and also more difficult to find the connection with your previous prompts and the new ones. So finally, I also want to share quickly about user flows, how you can create them with the help of AI. Also, you can do it inside of Figma, which is quite nice. And this kind of work I like to do when there's already a clear requirement, when you make your research, when you know what you want to do. Maybe there is a user story also defined on the backlog. So you go to Figma AI or Gembot, and you also write your prompt. So generate a user flow diagram for this and that. So yeah, it's quite easy. You click on generate, and then you actually get a user flow in a few seconds. I wouldn't say I just would copy paste it and mark it as done. Definitely not. But yeah, I think it's a great start, you know, because you already have diagrams, you can tweak it, you can modify it. If you take a closer look at this diagram, it's quite generic. So for example, when I work with our software, we have a lot of permission levels. So for example, we have an editor, viewer, admin, and so on. And for example, not everyone can save a filter, or not everyone can reapply it as well. But right here, Figma AI does not know about that. So you get just your basic user flow diagram. So that's why it's always a good idea for whatever you get from AI to think back whether it makes sense and actually add your own touch. To compare, you can do the same with ChatGPT if you find it easier for yourself. You can use exactly the same prompt, but here you will only get text as an answer. So just like a list of a user flow that you can actually grab, paste to another visual tool like Figma or Miro or whatever, and create your own user flow diagram. But I think this one is much better because it's visual. Also make some prep work for your user flows, and yeah, you can also share it with other people. All right, yeah, and I just want to quickly share a few lessons learned while using generative AI tools. So when I work with AI tools, I like to see our collaboration as a loop. So you generate some stuff, but then you always have to think critically like, okay, does it make sense? Does it make sense for my users, for my business? Yeah, if the information is actually relevant, is it up to date, and so on. So it's always like this continuous process that you go back and forward from generating and actually evaluating. I also find AI is a very good starting point for simple tasks and for inspiration. It's mostly as your first go-to draft, so very easy to start, but actually when you want to dive deeper into solving problems for your users, you have to do the real work. You cannot just ask AI to do everything for you and sit on your chair and relax. That's not how it is. Because, yeah, AI cannot create user-centric products on its own. And there are a lot of discussions on internet and in the industry. Will AI replace us? I don't think so. But as UX designers, we can actually utilize it in our best way to speed up some repetitive tasks, make it much more efficient for our work, and yeah, just innovate with technology. Yeah, of course, you shouldn't believe everything you get. That's obvious. You don't know the training data, where it comes from, what are the samples. The answers might be biased or they might be outdated, not relevant today. So you always have to go back and evaluate whether the answers make sense. And also, while working with AI tools, I found out that the more specific prompts you give, the better answers you get. But there's also some sort of gray area, because how specific do you want to be? Do you want to feed some sensitive data, or what is sensitive, what is not sensitive, you know? But especially when you go to Adobe Firefly, I feel the more specific you are with your keywords, the better visuals you can get for your project. And the same with ChatGPT or Gembot. And finally, I would say, look at AI tools as your creative collaborators and not your replacement, because I feel that in this industry with AI, we can evolve together and actually create really cool stuff with new technology. So that was my talk. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Super excited to try the Jam bot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm literally going to go home and do it.
Okay, great.
Does anyone have any questions? Yes. I thought so.
For the user flows,
Yeah.
For the user flows, have you tried inserting the response that you got from ChatGPT into into FigJam or the Jambot in FigJam?
No, actually not. But what I like to do in ChatGPT is actually to copy paste the answer I get and say, hey, can you make it more specific? And what about users who do not have access to this? Or can you maybe give me another iteration? Or can you make it better? So within ChatGPT, I was doing that, but not actually to Gembot. But it's a very cool trick. Maybe you should try it as well.
That's something to try as well as tonight.
Yeah, tonight.
Yeah, so you told indeed, like, you can't believe everything that ChatGPT tells you. When you search, for example, for these technical terms, and they give you this response, like, what kind of other information do you check to make sure that you can actually believe what ChatGPT is telling you?
So in the industry I work in, there is like official website with standards. Like for construction industry, that's where the real sources and real information is. Also, I like to go to my colleagues, consultants, who are really experts. They have background in that industry. They can actually verify whether it makes sense or not. Or even, just going to Google Scholar, finding some articles, with real references, not your basic articles written by whoever, but real research papers. But I think the easiest way is also to go to your colleagues if you have people who work in that industry. Yeah. Okay.
It's also related to the sources, because you've mentioned doing competitor analysis.
Yeah.
And also getting insight into what users like or dislike about the product. But what about the sources? Is that also something that's really visible within ChatGPT or other tools that you can really say, like, show me what's at the base of all of these insights?
Yeah, usually when you ask that, you just get, oh, this is information, I'm up to date until this moment. Maybe I cannot say everything, but I never actually found it very specific. So for competitor analysis specifically, I like to go to forums to check also like what people complain about the most, or even if possible, create a free account and browse by myself to see how I experience that as well. So,
I tried that one time, actually. I put it in our tone of voice and said, if you can cite sources, like academic sources, please do. And then I tried to look up the sources that it cited, and I couldn't find them. And they use really generic names like Henry and Miller, 2002 or something.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find them. So be careful with that one, because it is the conglomerate source of the internet. But if you ask for it, it won't do it. That's like one of the few kind of disastrous gaps that I've seen.
Exactly.
Have you ever tried anything with these tools where it was just like a disaster, where you're just like, don't bother, this was terrible, what a mistake?
Yeah, sometimes I just get like a very strange tone, like for example, like with learning about some standard or whatever, I say, hey, can you give it to in much simpler language? And then it starts to give this hype words like, hey buddy, imagine that you are here vibing with your engineers, and it's like, okay, that's very weird. So you have to go back and say, hey, can you please be more formal? And then it goes great. So that kind of stuff, I find it a bit strange.
I can concur. Even as an American who talks like an American, it's way too annoying for me as well. I'm like, take out some of the adjectives, please. Tone it down. I think we have time for one more question. Otherwise, we'll go to final break. Anyone?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for the insights. Definitely, everybody play around with these tools. They're super fun, and they can save you a ton of time as well. So, thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Is there anything we need to announce? We do not have an event next month. We usually take December off, so we won't be doing any UX Beers in Antwerp or Brussels, but we'll be back in January, last Tuesday of the month. The 30th, something like that. So we'll be back on January 30th. Hope to see you then. In the meantime, enjoy any holiday breaks you might be taking, and enjoy the new year, and we'll see you after in 2024. Thanks.